Catholic speaker Mari Pablo joins us today on The Gist. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to get to know you a little bit. Can you first of all just tell us a little bit about yourself and your faith life?
Yeah, so my name is Mari Pablo. I'm coming to you from Miami, Florida. My family is Dominican and Palestinian. Wow. So my grandfather grew up in Bethlehem, which I think is super cool.
Yeah.
And grew up in a charismatic organization that my parents originated in Miami. And so it's kind of like my parents' faith. I was like the preacher's kid for many years. And then, long story short, I've had like 13 ear surgeries, encountered the Lord on a deeper scale because he did a miracle and saved my life. And then kind of was lukewarm for many years, and then had a giant reversion when I served as a summer staffer for Life Teen Camp. And that's when my life fully changed and changed my school and changed my degrees and changed everything. I like to say the Lord wrecked my life in the best way possible. And from there, I've just been serving him. And I was youth minister in New Orleans for a while, then felt called to come back home. Mm-hmm. So I was a campus minister in Top Morality and Sacraments for the past 8 years. Wow. And now I travel and do speaking, and I'm doing things that I never thought possible. And I work serving the evangelical Catholics, serving parishes and universities.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, I love that you referenced the lukewarm, because I think many people can relate to that. And young people especially might be especially tempted to just kind of slide into that, becoming lukewarm in their faith life. So what was it at that point in your life that made you want to change your life and serve God the way that you do?
I was very hesitant for a while. I knew that God was always there. It wasn't a question about his existence. I knew he was present. For me, I think it was a thing of control. Like, if I give God my all, does that mean that I'm letting go of like all my plans?
Right.
And in a way, there's truth to that, right? Because I wasn't planning to study theology and psychology. I wasn't planning to go to Franciscan University in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. I wasn't planning on any of these things, right? But for me, it was like I equivalated surrendering God everything to just a piece of me kind of dying, which is true, but I saw it in a negative route. And so there was a lot of just wanting to be with the Lord, but also wanting to be in the world and be a normal Miami kid. Mm-hmm. And it took a while to get there, but the Lord just kept pursuing. He's so good at pursuing your heart. Mm-hmm. And he just kept doing it until I couldn't say no.
Yeah, so that's the big thing, right? Surrendering to God or trusting in God. I think that's what many people do struggle with in their faith lives. Do you have anything that you might recommend that helps people to do that? Or like if somebody's really struggling with that idea of, like you said, giving up my life to God, that sounds like a scary thing because we like to make our own plans. Do you have any words of encouragement for somebody who might be struggling with that?
One, you're not alone. It's like, right? Like as humans, it's just how we're built. There's something very difficult about that, right?
Right.
But two, the moment that changed my life was when I was in adoration and I was looking at the Eucharist, and I heard very, very clearly the Lord telling me, stop fighting and surrender. And it was like a moment. And I think sometimes we think as Catholics, it's like, oh, we have that moment and it's done.
Right.
And it's not. Like being Catholic is not easy. And if someone thinks it is, I don't know if you're doing it right. Like, so like to understand that those words, stop fighting and surrender, are things that I have to tell myself every day. Mm-hmm. And so the words of encouragement is, I think when you think the rest of your life, it sounds scary. If you think, when I wake up today, Lord, I'm going to give you my heart and I'm going to give you my plans and I entrust this day to you. And then every day you do the same thing. I'm not even married, but I think it's the same thing with marriage, right? Like you have to choose to love your spouse every day.
Every day. Yeah.
It's a choice every single day. And it's the same thing with our bridegroom, that we have to choose to love him and choose to surrender every single day.
Yeah. It's scary, but I like that you kind of break it down and that it's one day at a time. That kind of makes it feel more doable. But of course, this is something that many moms and dads are worried about their teens, their young adults, and their faith lives, especially maybe when they're in high school or they're going off to college. How can parents support their young people in their faith lives?
I think the first thing is always be a witness, right? Like, I'm a huge fan of actions speak louder than words. And so if you're saying that you're serving the Lord, how is it you're living your life. So how is it that the phone conversations that they're overhearing you say, what are you saying in those phone conversations, and the way that you treat them and the way that you love them? Sometimes with good intentions, we're not very loving with our words towards our, children that we speak to. So first thing, I think your witness is going to be huge. And number two, don't be afraid to have those tough conversations. And if you are Catholic, have you ever told your kid why?
That's a good question.
Seriously, well, okay, go to mass, all these different things. Well, why is that important to you? Why is it that you want your child to have an encounter with the Lord? Where does yours come from? And don't be afraid to also say, you know what, surrendering is really hard. And it's hard because of X, Y, Z. And it's difficult. It can be difficult to be Catholic, especially if you have all these questions. So what are those questions? And let's not be afraid to have those conversations and to just be bold in those ways. And if you're loving your child and, you're not coming off super intensely, right? Just breathe it out. I think that they'll be receptive to what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice, to just not be parenting out of fear, but to be setting that beautiful example of practicing your faith life. Well, finally, Mari, where can people learn more about you and follow your work online?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, just maripablo.com. Or you can go to my Instagram or Facebook, the usual, Mari Pablo 25 and Mari Pablo on Facebook.
Wonderful. We'll be checking out all that you offer there. Thank you so much for your witness, and thank you for coming and sharing with us here on The Gist today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.